Fabulous. So, Tracy, welcome. Tracy Wong's a choral conductor, music educator, composer, vocalist, and pianist. She's the assistant professor and choral director at McMaster's University's School of the Arts in Ontario, Canada. She also conducts the university choir and the Cantemus ensemble there as well. She serves as the conductor of the Grand Philharmonic Youth Choir in Kitchener, Ontario. Tracy holds a DMA in choral conducting from the University of Toronto and has conducted workshops for choirs in North America and internationally. Her choral works are available on her website through Cyprus Choral Music in Canada and Young Choral Academy in Malaysia. And they've been performed by choirs at international competitions and festivals. In today's session, Tracy is going to explore creative choral projects that have taken place in Canada during the pandemic. In particular, the new cross-country collaborative choral initiatives, which have helped organisations to share resources and to create new music and learning experiences. We're fortunate that Tracy will also introduce new flexible Canadian choral repertoire for programming considerations. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you. Good afternoon. It just hit noon. Good afternoon from Toronto in Canada. And it's wonderful to see everyone here. Thank you, Amy and Rachel, for inviting me in today to just share some of the experiences that we have in Canada during this really challenging time. And I think the bottom line is that happiness shared is double, sorrow shared is half, and that's what we go with the conductors and collaborators that I work with too. So entirely understandable. What I'll do is I'll be sharing screen with some information that you're more than welcome to take with, and there are other links that would be found on YouTube that I could also share. And at any point, feel free to pop in a question in the chat, and I'll have Rachel and maybe Amy just keep an eye on that. And just feel free to just jump in and say, so-and-so asked this. But I'm trying to also make sure I'm keeping a Q&A time at the end if there were other questions. So we're going to get started. I'm going to make sure that we are seeing what we're supposed to see. And I believe you'll be able to see the slides. So we're looking at creative choral collaborations from Canada, particularly Bridge Choral Collective, as well as Sonic Time-Lapse Project, both of which are choral projects that I have been really fortunate to be a part of in different capacities. So what I'm sharing today is my experience of working through the entire process. And although these may be a done situation or project, there are definitely areas where if you want to engage with the choirs in Canada that's listed here, we are more than happy to do collaborative work with friends in the UK. And also there would be some new music that would be available for purchase if you are thinking of expanding your choral repertoire and looking at new flexible programming. And I love the word flexible because I'm a teacher as well. I don't know whether I'm getting all the tenors and basses in school, or I'm not sure whether the tenor is still a tenor and when I see them next week at school. So it's helpful to have flexible music that we don't have to stitch together or improvise and have singers switch lanes in a score to sing to accommodate the voice. And I love that these composers are very mindful of that. And they are teachers themselves, so they empathize, and writing music that's functional and efficient during the limitations that we have is very, very important. We obviously have some stumbles along the way in some of the projects that we do, and this is me sharing the ups and downs, and hopefully some of these ideas or formulas you're more than happy to take with whichever helps down the road. So let's go. Firstly, here's a quick overview. I'll be talking really quickly about my background and my choral advocacy and what I do, how I'm involved with Bridge Choral Collective and Sonic Time-Lapse Project. Then we're going to dive in, look at Bridge Choral Collective first, and then Sonic, and we'll have some time for Q&A. This is me on the first day of school, 7 years old. I just had to put that there just because it helps set the scene of my background. I'm born in Malaysia and I'm an immigrant in Canada. As Amy has mentioned, I'm a choral conductor, music educator, and composer. And I'm a third generation Chinese Malaysian, which means that my parents were also born in Malaysia. My grandparents are immigrants from China. And I am now a first generation Canadian as a resident here. My family is still back in Malaysia, so I go back every summer. It's 1 foot in Malaysia and 1 foot in Canada at this point. So I like to just say that I'm a global citizen at the end of the day. I'm multilingual, English. I speak English with my family as well because my mom went to a convent school just like I did. My dad went to St. Michael's, just like all the other uncles in the family. So we do have that tradition. We speak Malay because that's the official language in Malaysia. And of course, on each of my mom and dad's side, we have different dialects of Chinese that I speak. So when it gets heated in a family discussion, all the languages has come out. And it's very similar in Toronto when we have multicultural communities. And it's just so nice to be immersed and learning from the various ethnic communities around me. As mentioned, I'm from a mission school tradition, hence you see that pinafore with that nice convent school, all girls school emblem right there. And that is pretty much a standard in my hometown in Ipoh, Perak. It is 2 hours from the capital of Kuala Lumpur. And we do speak English with the sisters and the nuns who run the school. We also have local teachers who also teach us cultural performing arts that is local. So we have a mixed bag of instructions and educational experiences, which I am really thankful for. This is not the same experience for all Malaysians, but this is mine. And we have music in school, and that's how I joined choir because the sister was really adamant about choral singing and choral speaking, and that's where I learned about Rodgers and Hammerstein and all the other songs that we usually sing together. So therefore, I do have Western music training in piano, violin, and singing. And just as everyone in this meeting is in choir, we were probably in choir from a young age. And once you're in choir, we never get out of choir. And it's a happy drug. I would like to say it's a way of socializing. And as an introverted child, that really helped me socialize within a controlled capacity of music making with my friends. So now I'm in Canada, as Amy has mentioned, working at the university and composing and working with teachers as well to build programs for schools. And my current work in choral advocacy is based on the fundamentals of from page to performance through pedagogy. And what that means is that when we are teaching in a class, it is repertoire-based learning. So this is where I'm really passionate about the kind of music that we learn and how that is a starting point for so many discussions and how every bit of the music should be a teaching aid and would just also help me as a teacher, help the students to learn more as well. Because of the work I do with Malaysian choral music and educators, I also encourage people to consider ethically sourced products for consumption. Just like we do for coffee beans and tea leaves, we can do that for music. That means we also, I'm trying to be mindful of acquiring music, if it is music of various cultures, and the music celebrates those particular cultures, how does my money also help encourage the communities that the music is singing about? How do the composers and the arrangers advocate for the community as well? So how far can the impact of a choral director and a choral room make with the community and the music that we sing? So this is where, if I'm in Malaysia, I bring back Canadian music. So I feel like I'm a musical translator. If I'm in Canada, I work more on Malaysian music and Southeast Asian music here. I'm also a fundraiser. And what that means is that the work that I do for presentations, workshops, and music that is part of my advocacy, a portion of it goes back to my work with the Malaysian choral music scene, where they may not have the money or the funding to build new projects for the schools. That's where I contribute my time and my resources that way. So when people buy my music, where it's usually folk songs or arrangements of Malaysian folk music, they would know that their music goes a long way as well, and their money goes a long way to contribute to the society. If I'm advocating for it, I should be doing it too. Therefore, I'm a promoter in many ways, and I continue to learn with many communities, even when I go back to Malaysia, because we're such a polyethnic culture, very similar in Canada. I'm continuously in discussions with people in the community on how we can advocate and support even more. So we're looking at Bridge Choral Collective and Sonic Time Lapse Project. And here's the quick distinction between the two before we dive right in. So it's the what, why, how, and who. So Bridge is a collection of 7 youth and young adult choirs across Canada. And this is us coming together, us meaning the choirs, coming together with shared resources, which means money, and creative age appropriate choral activities. Because sometimes one choir may have a better connection with an artist that they are bringing in, and they say, hey, would you like to join in on our session? And this is how we help each other out with shared activities and programming. This is where the financial contributions of each choir come in to help put a little fund together. So each choir is agreeable in X amount of money that we're putting in to run the program. And we are very fortunate to have patrons of the arts and also professional choirs in the country who also contribute and support our program. And we are very, very glad about that. And this is co-founded by the 7 choral conductors of these youth choirs, one of them being me. And how we actually met is because at the start of the pandemic, we kept seeing each other in the same webinars. There's so many online during the time as professional development. We keep bumping to each other and we say, hey, I think we are very similar in what we are looking for. Let's have a meeting and see what we can do about it. And I'm very, very glad that, long story short, now here we are with our choir still intact, connected across Canada, and motivated to help each other see through the pandemic. So that is wonderful. In terms of Sonic Time Lapse Project, this is a collaborative choral art commissioning project. And so this is based more on the music and new music for the community in Canada. This is where shared creativity and financial resources come in to fund new music creation. This is based on a crowdfunding model. And I just have to say, the founders are really business savvy in this, and they are musicians. They are co-founded by 3 choral artists and bringing in 10 project composers. And I'm one of those composers that were invited to be a part of this. And I'm very, very glad that I could contribute in this way. So let's look at Bridge Choral Collective first. You'll be able to find Bridge Choral Collective on Facebook in the public page as well as on Instagram. And this is what we are. The Bridge Choral Collective represents a bold cross-Canada initiative to generate thrilling new music rooted in justice in a time of global contemplation. It cements the bonds among some of Canada's most innovative youth and young adult choirs and brings them together to explore and create in partnership with guest artists from around the world. It took a long time for us to come up with the right wording for this on our website, but we learned from each other so much. And I just wanted to showcase the choirs that are involved that we are serving as part of our community. We have Toronto Youth Choir at the top, Vancouver Youth Choir in the middle. We also have Corazon Vocal Ensemble. Next one, we also have Prairie Voices, Cocopelli Choirs in the middle, and Cocopelli Choirs sent 2 choirs in for this collective because they are a large multi-tiered organization and they have a young adult and an adult choir. So both were joining into this program. And then there is Grand Philharmonic Youth Choir, which I conduct. So the co-founders are the choral conductors of those choirs that I mentioned. We have Alison Girvan, and we're going from left to right at the bottom here. Alison Girvan, and that's me. For Cocopelli Choirs, there's Katie Lauk and Scott Lighthead. For Prairie Voices, there's Guillaume Crocoli. Toronto Youth Choir is Matthew Otto. Vancouver Youth Choir is Carrie Tennant. And the 7 of us were really agreeable that we needed an administrator just to wrangle all the conductors together, because sometimes we just need someone to make sure we stay in line and in check with all the creative things we're trying to do in the space. And we're very lucky to have Tammy Jo Mortensen, who herself is a choral conductor and also an arts administrator. So everyone in this frame right here in this slide, I'm inspired by, and they are more than what they do. More than just a choral conductor, a composer, a community connector. I enjoy working with them because they lead with heart. They lead with empathy and compassion. And if there's anything that we feel needs to be said or something that's questionable that we need to rethink, we are honest with each other about that. And that is the kind of trust that I appreciate working in a collaborative circle like this. And these are wonderful people. And their choirs tour regularly and are fantastic performers. And they are more than happy to collaborate with anyone outside of Canada as well. Their websites are easily found, and so are they on Facebook and on Instagram. Alice and Givan, amazing composer. All of them are. I feel we are fans of each other. Let's just put it that way. So when it comes to the artists that we put together, these are just some of those we managed to program for last year. And the names here for, I think, the first 8 months during the pandemic. We did this because we knew we couldn't sing in person, we couldn't gather in person, and these would all have to be information that the choirs can have access to online in a shared space. And we knew if we were looking at artists, we wanted artists who could create a connection in an online space, who could encourage interaction between the artists and the audience members on Zoom, and also help create continued connection with each other's choirs beyond just the workshop itself. So we are also mindful in bringing in artists who are educators, who are fans of the choral art, and who could help us conductors to find discussion points as launching pads that we can continue in our own sessions. So we were really lucky to get Jacob Collier in. He was super busy, but we're lucky. Of course, we have Rayaton, Michael McGlynn, Maura Smiley, Cheryl Siwi Pagaham, Jason Max Ferdinand, Elise Bradley, UC Operatora Youth Choir, to name some. And we sat together initially to build a dream list of what we wanted. And we started pulling out our phone books, like, who can you get? Who do you know? And each of us know a different person, or we are 6 degrees of separation, and we were desperate, just whatever we can get for our singers. So if that person works for this particular choir, then let's see how we can collaborate a little bit more. The structure, as mentioned, is in the form of an interactive workshop. So we have all choirs tuning in on Zoom, usually about 400 of us in total with our choirs together. And the challenge was to find a time that worked, because we are in various time zones across Canada, and trying to find something that fit for all of us, plus time zone that fit for an international artist, was really important. So there was a lot of wrangling with time that we have to go back and forth on. But we do have a schedule of 1 or 2 artists a month, and we always had it on a Saturday. And we book it in advance, and we put it on our schedules for our own choirs, so that the choirs know what they're looking forward to and can put aside a little bit of time on the weekend for this. Some of the things that has been done, for example, with Maura Smiley from the States, who is a wonderful artist who works on improvisation, we actually sung together, say on drone, or she would be singing improvised lines, and we would be singing along with Zoom. So even the Zoom lag is not stopping us from creating really nice music. It's electronic in a sense because of the limitations of Zoom. But then she also encouraged us to send voice memos of us singing in that particular key at a later time. And then the following week, we actually got a final product from Maura, who put all the different voice memos of 400 singers together to put a piece that was specially for us. So we realized that, wow, we could have new ways of music making and connection with an artist, and her putting her style on it, but in an inclusive environment. And it was something similar with Jacob Collier as well. He's just a little bit more techy than the rest of us, and he managed to figure out how to record our Zoom voices live. And then we saw him working immediately on his computer mixing everything. So we got to see his composition process. And a lot of our singers are big fans of Jacob and were just intrigued to see everything under the hood of how he was going about it. And we're so inspired. We do have quite a lot of singer-songwriters in our choir, so everyone was just speechless at the end of it. We were really inspired, and it helped the singers find a new sense of connection and reminder of how important music making is during this time. And well, I'll show you a little snippet of what we did with Jacob a little bit later. And of course, Rioton was just fantastic to work with. They were able to sing in their space together because they were in their own bubble. So Rioton was the first choir during the pandemic for us that made Zoom sound good because they could sing together and we didn't hear individual voices. And the moment they started singing, we were in tears. And this is not an exaggeration. We missed hearing voices together. And to have that first experience of collective singing after a long period of silence, and that be Rioton's collective singing, it was a very, very special moment. And it helped our young singers understand, wow, I didn't know I missed this. So now we do, and there's that hunger to come back in person. And we are very fortunate that we had long discussions with each of these artists to curate a content that would be meaningful to us, but also something that the artists are comfortable doing. And some of the other artists we have was Free Play Duo. We also had Annika McGiven, who is wonderful in guiding us through mental health for singers and conductors during this time. Because I know as a conductor myself, I am not equipped to lead such a conversation with my choirs as much as we need it. So for the singers to see that the conductors and the singers are on the same platform learning how to navigate mental health during this time, it just helped us bond so much more. There is no us and them between a choral leader and a choral singer in the community, and we're all learning together how to navigate mental wellness during this time. And it was a great way to continue the conversation after this workshop with our own singers. And I got to know my singers a little bit more. I started to understand some of the struggles that they had, and I felt that it was important for me as well to share and be vulnerable, because usually it's a very lonely job being a choral conductor sometimes. And there are many things that I feel I cannot say, but this pandemic has just provided a space to share that we have shared struggles, and the singers understand, we understand each other so much more. It redefines the way I look at choral leadership during this time. And of course, we have Mark Anthony Carpio, Philippine medical singers, Lona Larson, and Vono. So besides the artists that were with the 7 choirs, we also wanted to make sure, and we're cognizant that it doesn't feel like a club, a high school club where other people can't get in. Because if we're doing shared music making, we are mindful that we should be sharing with the community. So we have a Building Bridges workshop, part of Bridge Choral Collective. And what that means is that the artists that we're engaging would, after that workshop with our own choirs, have a separate workshop as a professional development for educators in the community and in the schools who want to learn more from these artists, and they would be paying a certain amount for a package deal of workshops with the artists throughout the season. And there would also be separate workshops for community and school choirs. So for example, if we get one artist in to work with our 7 choirs, it's a specific content. And then after that, we make sure that the artist gets a 15 or 30-minute break off Zoom. And then we start to bring the teachers in from the community on Zoom with their choirs at that time, who the artists would run a separate workshop with. So we know that we are sharing our resources with the community as opposed to keeping it just within the confines of our 7 choirs. And that was important to us. Here's a quick clip of the ad that we ran for the open workshops, just so you have a better idea of what's going on. So those are some of the artists. Not every artist that we brought on for our choirs were able or available to do the workshops, either that or Jacob cost too much, honestly. So we were really mindful of how we were distributing the content for better access and also something that's affordable for the teachers. Go to the next slide. Hang on. So, in summary, here's just a quick rundown of the statistics for this Bridge Choral Collective that we had. In total, we had 18 workshops. Building Bridges workshop, we had 6 of those artists. We have professional development and roundtable. That's also 6 sessions. We had presenters from post-secondary institutions who come in to also talk to the younger singers of various programs that's going on in the university if they're choosing to go to music or media in the arts in a local institution. Patron choirs who were supportive in many ways with what we do with 3. We had 2 big donors, but most of the finances actually came from our own choral organizations. We pulled money together. The attendance for all the Building Bridges and the professional development was mostly Canadian provinces. We had folks from US and Ireland as well. At the end of the day, we have long-lasting connections and friendship, and I'll show 2 really short video examples on this. Second. I am unfortunately unable to share the entire clip because some of it is meant for just our singers and there's a lot of restricted content, but here is a little bit of what we do. This is one of the songs that we learned from University of Pretoria Youth Choir, where the choir at that time of the pandemic could gather in their conductor's home to teach us a song together. So we started singing together Heshe, and with our 400 choirs on this side. And after 10 minutes of learning the beginning part of the song, there were section leads in UPYC choirs who went to different parts of the conductor's home, who started leading sectionals. So we went into breakout rooms. So all the sopranos in our 400 members over here, they started going to different breakout rooms. And then on UPYC side, they would be joining in different rooms of the conductor's house to run sectionals. And we were there singing that song with them. So we were still engaged in live music making as much as possible. And then 20 minutes later, we went back to the main room. And for the section leads in the conductor's house, they ran back to the living room. And then we sang together again and we worked on movements. So we tried our best to make sure that all this worked in terms of scheduling. And at the end of the whole season of doing this, we decided to put a video together where it is a collaborative effort of singing. So here's just a snippet of what we did. And just stop it right there. So we do what we can. We practice in our backyards. We run to someone else's homes. Meet at a church parking lot, and we record ways to just make it work for all of us. And it was just so wonderful to actually see this again. And here is a quick recap on a few of the artists that we worked with. This was actually compiled by one of the singers in one of our youth choirs for our final session. So you have a quick look at the different artists who worked with us and what actually happened. Just a quick 30 seconds.
We start with the heart, we end with the
What I'm doing is I'm sort of going
Chewbacca style.
everybody trying to make a Star Wars Chewbacca sound. 1, 2, 3. It's very easy, it's effortless, in fact, to fall in love with something. You think, wow, that's just amazing. And whenever I feel like that about something, I know that at that moment, because I'm being sensitive to that particular feeling, you know, like that particular moment hits me in that particular way, that point, I know that if I have the tools, I can access that same feeling in reverse. I can put it out, because that's how it works. Feelings work like that. And so
It was just wonderful, and we didn't know what to say when we had Jacob Collier on, and I had to moderate the whole session, and I was tongue-tied. But he is such a gracious person to work with, and such a generous and giving musician, and we were so inspired. Give me a second. I'm just going to stop share this and go back in here, and here we go. So we have those two examples, and that was Bridge Choral Collective. Now, running quickly to Sonic Timelapse Project, which you see here is a collection of 10 composers coming together to create new music. We were really lucky to be invited by the founders to do this. It is a collaborative choral art project in times of social distancing. So again, the founders understood that choirs cannot come together to sing. There would be limited resources to acquire new music, and also acquiring music that could be done or rehearsed online. And sometimes we're not sure what our singing capacity would be. We were not sure what our membership would look like. So we needed something flexible that everyone could engage in singing in some way. Therefore, Sonic Timelapse Project is a collaborative choral art commissioning project created as a response to the global COVID-19 pandemic, with the goal of gathering content from the emotional landscape of choral communities in Canada and beyond. This project will be realized using an innovative crowdfunding model, bringing together shared creativity and financial resources in a time of need to fund the creation of 10 new works and support online programming for participating choirs. And I'll show you who the co-founders are as well, with support of Prairie Voices, one of the choirs. So we have the three co-founders here, Katerina Gimon, Gyung Krokali, and Laura Hawley. All of them are composers, educators, conductors, very much choral artists themselves. So here's a quick introduction and a recap of Laura mentioning more about the program better than I can. And I will show you this right here. And let's go to Laura. So you would be able to see Sonic Timelapse Project website, and I'll walk you through a little bit to find some other information if you're interested. So right at the bottom, you'll see the showcase here of the music that's been done. But I want us to go to Laura right now. There we go.
And welcome to the Sonic Timelapse Showcase Celebration. I'm Laura Hawley. I'm one of the co-founders of the Sonic Timelapse Project, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this showcase. It's hard to believe that it's over a year now since we started talking about this idea initially and getting it off the ground during the summer of 2020. And this showcase is really meant to be a huge thank you to everyone who has supported our project, who has joined the Sonic time-lapse community, who's been working on pieces, participating online in our members Facebook group and showing us what you've been up to. And of course, a huge thanks to our composers. I'm so proud of what we've been able to accomplish as a community together. We have commissioned 10 new Canadian choral works by composers from across Canada. We have developed an online platform where these works are available, along with workshops that you can do with your choir, videos from all of the composers, practice tracks to help you with learning the pieces, all kinds of good stuff on there. So if you haven't yet joined the Sonic Time-Lapse community and you're watching this video on the launch date of May 30th, 2021, good news, you still have 48 hours to join the community before our project officially closes on June 1st. Just head over to sonictimelapse.com, and there you can find out more about the project and all of the different levels that you can choose from for joining in the community. We're also gladly continuing to accept donations to support our project. And aside from that, I just want to say a big thank you to all of you. It's been fantastic to see the outpouring of support from choirs and individuals from across Canada, but also beyond Canada. So it's been just fantastic. So enjoy these performances. We have several of the new pieces written for Sonic Time-Lapse Project represented in this showcase. Big thank you to all of the choirs and their conductors and pianists who prepared these videos. I know most of us, maybe all of us, are still working virtually, so lots of creativity has gone into putting these presentations together. So please enjoy our showcase. Again, if you want to find out more about us, check out sonictimelapse.com, and we wish you all the very best. And again, thank you so much for your support.
And thank you, Laura. So you would be able to see the entire showcase of the music that's been done on the website itself. I just wanted to make sure you are able to hear from Laura and know one of the founders who's here. So how it actually works is, let me just stop share. So how it works in terms of the process is that the co-founders actually reached out to 10 composers, and one of it was me. They were asking, this is the situation that we're in. This is what we're hoping to look for in terms of new music. Would you be interested? This is the timeline of how it's going to work out. And for me, I say yes, anything to help in that way, because I know as a conductor, I am very interested to purchase some of the music from those other composers who are on the list as well. And I know that they'll be creative and innovative about it. So at the start, what the co-founders did was made a call for conductors, choirs, choral communities, choral fans, anyone who is interested to submit their reflection on a Google form about their feelings, their thoughts, artwork during the pandemic. If there's poetry that's being written, if there is something that they created or drew, just upload everything onto a database. And that's where, after a certain amount of time, that particular folder or database is shared among the 10 of us composers. So we access it, we look through everything. It was quite emotional just to see what people were sharing. And we create music that is inspired or motivated by what everyone has written. And some of the composers took lines of their reflections and have it as part of their music. And some have done it in very different ways, or they were inspired by a poet that was similar to what was being mentioned in a reflection. And because the choral community knew that this was an important part of the creative music making, that their voices are heard, their sentiments and their thoughts and their reflections are a part of the music. They are involved in this as much as the composers are. So it helped in a group music making process in that way. And that's where we started working on the compositions. And we also were asked and required to create resources as part of our composition project to make sure that the singers also had learning tracks They would have videos from us composers saying, hello, this is what it's about. As a better way of connection, we would be accessible for workshops by the choirs who have purchased our music, so that we can talk to them a little bit more online and help work through the music. So the composer's process does not stop after the music is being delivered, that we're continuing to meet the community in that way. And that's always wonderful. And because we have 10 composers, 2 pieces were launched every month. So there were always 2 composers at the start of every month that were being launched that the choirs could have a look at, the conductors could have a look at if they would like to purchase the music or wait for the next round in the next month for more music to come. So that's one way of going about it. And here, this one. If you're on the works site, you'll be able to see the list of composers and their backgrounds. And you would start to also realize that the one piece was done in many different voicings, and it's very flexible. That's the meaning of flexibility in that way. And if some are more accommodating with piano, that helps the singers a little bit more. Deanna's one is amazing. I don't know how she does it, and that is some wrangling that she needed to do with her compositions, I know, but it's beautiful music. It's also on the showcase. We have everyone here. And also, if you would like to reach out to the composers themselves, their websites are usually attached to the bio, so you get to meet them a little bit more. They are very accommodating. And we would also have the ability to look at the scores. So when you're here, you would have a snippet of the PDF that is available in all the different permutations and voicings there. So you would definitely be able to see before buying or purchasing. And this is how the tiered funding system worked when we were doing the crowdfunding source. They said that a choir could buy one piece known as a Sing One, and that would give them access to any workshops that the composer is doing, access to also submit more creative reflections as part of, say, a classroom activity that the teachers need more content for when trying to teach online. We have early access to peruse those scores, and then purchasing additional music at a discounted price. So that is for one piece. And then the similar thing would happen for Sing 4 pieces. 4 pieces, and the backstage pass means that the names of the contributors or the choirs will be included at the back page of the music as part of a commissioning project. There's also a separate commissioning club. Sometimes conductors just want to support, and they may not necessarily want or have the luxury of having the financial backing of an organization, but they still want to support. So sometimes there will be conductors calling each other up and say, hey, I want to program this music. I know you have a similar choir, I want to program that music, but we want to do it elsewhere. If I'm chipping in this amount of money, do you want to chip in with me so we can share the commissioning for that? That's how it works. And then this is where conductors come together to commission one piece that they could use for themselves. And of course, we have the higher tier choral commissioning hero who could put that little bit more money. And add-ons would be if, say, you are buying into the first tier, which doesn't have the other perks, there's an add-on item there too. So that was how it worked. And in that crowdfunding model, I felt it was really innovative way of going about it. It created flexibility for organizations and accessibility to music, depending on the means that they are able to put out. And of course, as mentioned on the homepage, there is the showcase of the music that has been done during the pandemic of these pieces. If you'd like to listen before you consider buying or looking at what other things the composer may have done outside of this project. So we're rounding the corner. Because that is now at this point in time, it is after the project and everything is closed. For a composer, I appreciate that we have the exclusivity of being a part of a project, but after a certain time when the commissioning is done, that for a composer, I have back all the exclusivity and the rights to be able to further put out my music in various sources if I need to after this whole commissioning is done. That means that my music as a composer does not just stay on one project and fingers crossed if they want to commission, they're going to put more money down, but that's the limited access to my music that they would have. So at this point, after July of this year, we have received all the rights back as composers. And if you like to peruse the music, you could either go on the composer's website, or to purchase them, you could email the composers directly, or Sonic Timelapse is still taking in orders and helping to make the connection with the composers, because some have started to self-publish the music and also put it on different distributors' sites. And the flexibility for this project cuts across to also composers, not just to choral organizations. So that was something helpful to have. So thank you for listening to the experience that I had with Sonic Timelapse Project and for Bridge Choral Collective. It has been a big learning process for all of us involved, and I'm very thankful to be a part of such innovation that goes on during a time where we feel there's so much limitations. And at any point, if you'd love to reach out to me, I'm happy to have a chat with you on the ideas and the things that I advocate for, and for you to just feel free to reach out to the composers and the choirs in Canada. They're very nice people and very accommodating and very friendly. And those conductors are also fantastic clinicians and presenters and conductors themselves. So thank you so much for taking time to listen. And yeah, I'm happy to receive any questions you may have.
Tracy, thank you so much. It was really wonderful to have a glimpse into those projects. Does anyone have any questions for Tracy? I'm sure you do.
If you'd like to ask any questions, do feel free to unmute. There are just few enough of us, I think, that won't cause a problem. So do feel free to do that. But Jeremy's already started in the chat anyway. So which says, how did you choose the composers?
Jeremy, I believe you're talking about the commissioning of the 10 composers. Yeah, so the founders were really agreeable that the composers should be those who are flexible in the way they write, who are able to write in simplicity yet beauty. And there are certain composers who are just better adept at that, and who understand writing music for schools, in school programs for teachers who need to use the music as teaching tools. So the limitations are there, but this is where we just get a little bit more creative. The other one would be they're mindful in getting composers from across Canada, so different provinces, and also showing diversity in many ways so that our individual voices are heard. I was at first honestly a little apprehensive to join because I told the founders, and they're good friends, so I was really honest with them, and I said, I'm not sure how Canadian I can get in writing my music at this time. And this is me with my immigrant hat on, because if not for the kindness of friends here, I wouldn't have had the space to practice the music in a way that I feel is meaningful. And what the founders told me was that you do you. It could be different. It doesn't have to be English or French. And I said, great, I can write in other ways. So for example, the music that I wrote is of the shadow puppet tradition in Malaysia, which has the idea of light and darkness of both equal beauty. And that's something that I see in the pandemic as well. We always talk about light and then darkness being something a little bit negative, but it shows what areas it shows ourselves. And I think we can learn so much from that. And that I could tie into the tradition of the Malay puppet theater that we had. And the music that I wrote did not have text because sometimes language gets lost in translation. And I didn't want to water down that idea. So it was a lot of vocables, and it was the vocal representation of gamelan and traditional instruments that one would normally play, but I made it as a vocal play of singing. So that was something else. There were other composers who wrote music who have body percussion in there because we felt singers are sitting too much during the pandemic and we need to move within good capacities. So the composers themselves actually created tutorials and then tried to do it because we realized that if we cannot sing or we cannot explain our own music, how are we supposed to expect other singers to do the same? So writing realistic music was really important for us. And flexibility, writing in different voicings and understanding the different voice types, tenor bass, treble, what mixed voices need in capacity, where the tessitura sits, what the passaggio is, and how to avoid that. So we are looking for composers who know how to write for voices.
Tracy, I think Ken may have a question,
Sure.
but at the end, could we listen to your piece if there is time?
Oh, yeah, sure. I can pull that up. Ken, do you have a question?
I do. So a lot of crowdfunding stuff, they're one-off projects. And it sounds like your initial thing has kind of come to an end. You've handed the rights back to the composers. Are the founders intending to do something to follow on with that, or are they moving on to something else now? Or is this a continuing thing?
Oh, good question. I did ask him about that. At this point, I think there is a need to have this continue because the pandemic is not at an end. And this was really beneficial for all parties involved in the project. But I have not heard of something concrete yet coming from the founders. And understandably so, because they're all teachers. And next week we start school again for fall. So it would take us a little bit of time to understand this is what the new situation is like in schools. This is what the new situation is like in organizations. We're starting to sing in person again in Canada within restrictions of our province, masked distance, certain amount indoors, and we have all these COVID policies that we need to be mindful of. Once we know the realities of the situation, and if Sonic Time-Lapse is coming back in, it would be a version 2.0 of what was done before because we're now in a different environment. So if we are bringing on the music, it would have to serve its new purpose. So I am keeping my fingers crossed and optimistic about it. And I have a strong feeling, knowing them as friends, that it's not just a one-time thing. They are workhorses and they are creative people, and they are those who continuously seek to do better. So if there's anything, I would definitely let Amy know, and I'll post it into the ABCD Facebook group as well.
That's great. So I think I know the answer to this, but the supplemental question is, do all the composers feel it was a very positive experience, and do the founders think that as well?
The composers, speaking as a composer, I felt it was useful, and for me to write within such limitations, it helped us understand the conventions of writing a little bit more, and to also throw some of those conventions that book out the window because it doesn't apply. And certain things that we were taught in composition school does not apply during this time. And how do we go about it to navigate for and develop and evolve as musicians as a whole? So I think there is a greater sense of community where we are serving the music and serving the singers. And it's just wonderful to see. And I know that the conductors are also really appreciative of the flexibility of the music and the additional resources that come in. Because the teachers are not the one needing to record the parts and trying to teach it. We've already done it for them. Whatever we can to just, like, teachers, we have your back. This is what we're trying to say.
Well, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I've got another question if there's time.
Sure.
Jeremy.
Just sort of similar to Ken's question about the Bridge Choral Collective, which, I mean, an incredible program. I wish I could have been part of it. Looks so great. What is sort of your next steps for, like, in the real world once lockdowns comes down? Have you got any thoughts about?
For Bridge, I know that when we did our final season cap in this past summer with our choirs, the singers wanted more. And they said, is there some way that we could still connect across Canada, even though we're going back to in-person and we're leaving our Zoom space? There are national conventions that many of us conductors, the 7 of us, are part of. And it creates new opportunities for us. For example, if I need to go to Vancouver and I'm in Toronto and I say, hey, I'm bringing my choir to Vancouver, I know exactly who my singers would want to sing with at this point. We already have connections in different parts. It's just like going to a different country and finding a person that you know in that country to take you in. So we have that in our province, and that's wonderful. The singers are wanting a bridge con, basically a convention where all the choirs come together and sing. What I found was really helpful also is that when I'm starting to plan tours again, and I may not have the necessary numbers to want to go on tour because of the balance of voices. Some people either cannot afford, cannot be there. If they're younger, the parental units may not be agreeable, many things to consider. Therefore, this is where we have had this conversation, but it feels like an idea that we need to definitely think a little bit more about. If I don't have enough singers and I'm going to a certain province and we need to do a festival, I would have to import singers from our partner choirs over there. And because we have already shared repertoire that we've been learning, it would be pretty seamless. Either that or those singers already know me because each of us conductors have been taking turns to lead sessions online. It's not meeting strangers. So we are definitely helping each other to either supply singers or to make sure that those who want to go travel can travel. There is no, this is my team, that's yours, we don't share singers, like none of that. We know so much more could be done when we share. So this is what we agree on in the 7 of us. We also keep at the back of our mind, should, touch wood, a Delta variant becomes really aggressive over here and we have to go back to online, then we're ready to do 1 session a month on a weekend, and it's in a similar format that we've done before. So we still try to provide choral programming for our singers, and that's something to look forward to.
Sounds amazing. Lucky singers.
Yes, we're lucky conductors.
Can we listen to your piece, Tracy?
Sure, I can try and pull it up. Give me a second. This is just a SoundCloud of it. And this is Sync Up Siaga. This is the one with body percussion, SSA and body percussion. I wanted something that I can sing in the comforts of my space, and it feels like an earworm. And I'll just probably do a snippet of it. This is me singing all parts. So I had to learn how to be an audio editor as well. It was a big learning process, but here we go. So that's an idea of it. I'll be able to share a link with Amy. But what I wanted to do was push the notion of what choral singing could be, but within healthy singing conventions and working with sounds, textures, and weight of the voice so that not everyone sounds the same, because we don't sound the same. And how do we do that in the music? It sounds more complex than the score looks, and that's my favorite way of writing. That it's actually easy and doable. It sounds more complex than it is. And every line is something that the singer would love to sing rather than hold one note for 12 bars. And I'm trying to be cognizant of that too. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tracy, for a really, really wonderful session. And thank you everyone for joining us today. It's been so lovely to have an insight into those projects. So thank you for joining us all the way from Canada. Yeah, I hope you can have a listen to some of the other things that are available on the ABCD Festival.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Amy, and have a wonderful evening to everyone, and all the best. And hopefully things look up for all your choral activities, and I'm sending lots of positive vibes to everyone over there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Likewise.
Tracy.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.